All right, hello and welcome to Component Carousel, the show where we have phenomenal creative developers on to teach us a technique and build a component with us around a theme. This month's theme is Kaiju Demolition Services. Yes, I had a fear, a bit of panic in my eyes. I'm like, is that it? That is it. And this is the last week of the month. We had some fantastic people on this month, and I am so happy that we get to finish it with Amit Sheen. And yeah, so if you are new here, just want to unwrap that component carousel bit a little bit more before we bring him on. Um, Basically, we are able to make an entire website around one theme, and that theme for each month is I'm seeing myself off in the corner, kind of echoing. That theme is what we build the website around, and each person comes in and builds like a section of that website, kind of like a slice of the site. They might build out a hero, or they might build out like a team section, and we put the website all together at the end of the month, and we have 4 cool components that all tie into that same theme. And today we have Amit Sheen, who is just phenomenal at CSS. We're going to show some of his incredible work in just a second, but also phenomenal at just web development in general. But that's how I know him. And we're going to build something really cool. So without further ado, let me add him to the stream. Amit, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm excited. How are you?
I'm very excited too. Yeah, I've been excited about this since the minute you said yes to coming on the stream. So this is just kind of like a lot of anticipation, kind of like when you're like excited for
I
Christmas or
said
excited for like that vacation to come and the day is here. This is just I don't know. I'm
I've said
very happy.
yes the second you asked me.
Yes, you did. You did. You did not hesitate. You first said, "Who
So
is this?" No, I'm just kidding. You were super kind, and you said, "Yeah, absolutely." So yeah, I was thrilled, and I'm really excited to have you on. Have some great people in the chat. Leah, good to see you. El Suxo, Ari. Let's see. El Evidente, welcome. Right on. Hannah, hello. We had some people up. Oh, and Ed was in here at the top. Great people here already. Thank you for coming through. I'm sure you are all as excited to see Amit here as I am. So let me actually add the. Oh, I'm showing off the goods a little too early. Let me ease people in because there's a chance out there that you might not know who Amit is. You might be familiar with his work without really knowing it. Right? Happens a lot to me where I'm like, oh, I've seen that thing. Awesome. But Ari knows so. That's awesome. So
thank
I'm
you.
it. How would you bill yourself? Or are you? I mean, like I know you're very interested in CSS, but do you see yourself as like a CSS person, or is that just kind of what you like to do for fun and for your work you
No,
do lots of other stuff?
I'm actually a lot like what we're going to do today. I'm first of all I'm a JavaScript developer. I've actually started off as a game developer. That's why we're going to do a game today.
Yep.
Um, and I did a bit of everything. I did a lot of some full stack server side, but mainly front end,
Cool.
JavaScript front end. But I always loved CSS,
Yeah.
and I think we talked about it on a previous stream that being a JavaScript developer made me a better CSS developer, and knowing CSS made me a better JavaScript developer. And
Yeah.
I think that JavaScript, when you know the JavaScript and CSS well together, there's a great synergy that can be created. You can have each part do what it does best and leave the other parts to the other side, and you get a much better, cleaner, more maintainable code. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And I think HTML definitely plays in there too, right? Like
Yeah,
the
of course,
three
but
the three are listed
but
together and have that synergy for a reason.
yeah, of course, but people talk about the fact that JavaScript developers, specifically developers that works with frameworks, don't like CSS, and that's not true. Like I
Yeah.
work my day job, I work in React all day long, and in the evening I play around with CSS because I love CSS. So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be one over the other. It can be together, That's why we're going to do something weird with JavaScript and CSS today.
Love it. I love the combination. And just real quick to the chat as a reminder, if audio things are weird at all, let me know. I can adjust them here. I just because we're using StreamYard right now as a temporary vacation fix, I don't have a good sense of like the volume controls. It doesn't give me a lot of information. So let me know if there's ever anything that I can maybe fix. All right. But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. Audio is perfect. Thank you, Ari. I appreciate you saying you giving feedback regardless. Cool. So and I am getting a little bit of echo, Amit, but hopefully that fades or that just doesn't continue. But it's all good. I'm gonna drop your Twitter in here. Everyone should definitely give you a follow there. But also see like your CodePen to me is real. I'm not even following you on CodePen, Amit. I'm sorry. This is embarrassing. I can't. I kind of can't believe it. So I'm gonna drop your CodePen in, and a million apologies. A million apologies. Mike is here. Good to see you, Mike. Thanks for coming through. Right, El Sexo? I agree.
Shame.
Yeah.
Shame.
We're gonna cut that before we air this, right? I think so. Yeah, so I just want to show off a couple of these.
Yeah, so if you know me from my CodePen, so you probably know me as somebody that does mainly CSS. Like everything you see here is pure CSS. But again, I am doing a lot of JavaScript on Word. The CodePen is just a place to play around with CSS. So most of the thing I'm doing in CodePen is CSS. Yeah, this is one of my favorites actually.
Yeah, it's really cool. It took me a while to wrap my head around the fact that the spheres are circles, right? Because it
Yeah.
feels like they are rotating and that they are 3D, but it's just that those are facing the camera.
Yeah, in this specific, you can actually see that there's the reflection of the marble on the So the reflection is also moving,
Oh.
which also helps the illusion of it's really being a ball. But of course, again, it's not. It's just a circle.
Yeah, I mean it's just essentially a div with a border radius, right?
Yeah, a div with
Yeah.
a border radius, and the background image just moves from left to right, so it looks like it's turning around.
Oh, that subtle image shifting trick I think is what did it, because before I'm just like, that looks so good. How was he fooling my brain like that? I should be able to spot that sphere as just, just facing me artificially. But I think that trick is just a little bit of realism that put it over the edge and fooled my brain. That's awesome. That is really awesome.
Yeah.
This one's just really neat. It's like a 3D Pong, basically, is how I kind of see these rackets.
Yeah, it actually started off as a Pong, but then it somewhere along the way it had another dimension and it became a table tennis. But ping pong is just Pong, it's the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Just the rackets being squares, kind of make it a combination for me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really cool. I love that one. Yeah, so I linked the CodePen, so you should be able to see those. I'm not going to dump all the links, but if there's something that you want me to drop in chat, let me know, chat. I will happily do it. This I think is probably the first one that I saw from you. I remember
Yeah,
seeing this a
that's
while ago.
actually the first one. It's almost a year ago. I checked
Hmm.
it today. It published on August the 3rd.
Cool.
Yeah. So this is actually the first one that really became viral. Like not really viral, but
Yeah.
everybody shared it.
It's CodePen
Uh,
viral.
yeah, CodePen viral. Yeah, I liked it, but I don't know. I think about doing an improved version of it, like for this 1 year anniversary.
That's cool. That's awesome. And I think my zoom is betraying the trick a bit more than it typically does. So if I zoom in a lot, yeah, I'm getting a good echo now. I'm it. If we can, I'm not sure. Um, or it was just at that one zoom. Anyway, do you want to tell how this works? How you're turning pages with just HTML and CSS?
Oh, so yeah, so each page that you're getting there is actually divided into 7 segments. And each segment is the flip, and each one is actually the child of the previous one. So
Oh,
the so each one is turning, but it's also connected to the last one.
got
Um,
it.
and of course, each of them is preserving the 3D from the parent. So this is the effect you get. There was a lot of playing around because the background image of the image of each div had to change when it was exactly on 90 degrees. So there was a lot of playing around over there,
Oh.
but it worked.
So here, here,
Eventually, it
here, here,
worked.
here, right? Like as it rotates, this needs to
Exactly,
change. No,
like
no, no,
tack,
no,
tack,
no,
tack,
no,
tack,
no,
tack,
no.
tack, tack.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a clever problem to solve. And Ben just came in. Ben, great to see you. Thanks for coming through.
Hey
Um,
Ben.
yeah, that's awesome. A couple more here. House of CSS cards.
Yeah, so I love playing around with cards. I always have a deck of cards on me. Like, obviously, I don't know if you know it about me.
Oh yeah, no.
But so I wanted to do something with cards. So I made a deck of cards, a house of cards. And you can see when you move the mouse up and down on the screen, so you can change the visual. So the mapping is also done by with pure CSS, obviously. And I actually, after I made it, I wrote an article about it, about mapping mouse position in CSS, uh, and I had a lot of some more examples using this method.
That's really neat. And the wireframe is so satisfying. That's great. We got one more. And this was one I actually put in
Yeah,
a newsletter, a front end horse newsletter. I think that's probably the first time you and I spoke when I wanted to
it
cover
is.
this for the front end horse newsletter. And it was just so neat. Like I saw it and I immediately needed to figure out how it was working, how you were doing it, because you clearly wouldn't, make double the amount of elements that you needed or anything like that. So just digging into it was a lot of fun. Let me actually
Yeah, I
find.
actually love the breakdown that you did. You flatten everything down, uh, and you actually to understand, you just turned into a 2D image, which was actually even I understand the animation better after I read it.
Oh, that's
It
awesome.
was a great breakdown.
That's awesome. I need to find super quick where that was. Let me just see. Amit. Nope, not in this one. I'm gonna see if I can find it within a few seconds. 3D shapes. No. SVG animations. Confetti conic gradients and GSAP. Scrolling sodas, generative share cards, GSAP utility functions. Rising steps. Got it. Here we go. Issue 24. Let's drop that in. And I'll drop it in the chat too. Yeah. So rise up. So yeah, I just did a little breakdown, but yeah, if you're curious about that one, this gives it a little bit of just a tiny bit of information or whatever. I don't know. Just wanted to drop that in. Cool. So today, we are going to be working through a game, right? So I came to you and basically said that we have this kaiju demolition services theme, and you pitched this idea of making a game. So we're going to be doing a game for it. Do you want to talk about like your idea behind the game?
So actually, we talked about after a stream you made about a game. Oh, I forgot his name. The game you made. How was what was his name?
We made a. Oh, is it Bruno?
No, Oregon Trail, something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Jamie Coulter. Yes.
Yeah. So we spoke after that. So I said, okay, I started as a game developer. So let's make a game. So yeah, we're going to do a very simple runner game. The idea I had is something like the Chrome dinosaur game, like a single tap
Right.
when you need to jump and escape something. So obviously, the thing I thought about you need to escape from is the demolition, is the laser rays from the kaiju.
Yeah, and we had a previous one where with Zach Saucier where we
Yeah,
used the laser to blow up the city. So this kind of ties into that where like now we have someone who needs to escape the city from that laser. So that's perfect.
pre- precisely. So this is the general idea. So you're just a little character running on rooftops. Yeah, this is you,
It's cool.
and we're gonna see the buildings in a second. And you're just running and jumping on rooftops and escaping the kaiju that's exploding the buildings behind you. So to make the game, we're going to use, as you wrote, vanilla JavaScript. We're not going to use any third-party libraries. Uh, and as you can see, there is no canvas. Normally, when you do a JavaScript game, you render everything eventually to a canvas. Uh, Not today. We're going to do something a bit different. The render function, what it's going to do, it's going to render CSS custom properties and CSS classes. So everything you see on the screen, all the movement, the animation, the images, everything, it's going to be controlled by CSS, not by JavaScript. So it's going to be a bit weird, but it's going to work great, I think.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah,
One thing I just realized is I you have Pro, so can you on your end duck into collab mode?
yeah, of course,
Cool. And then we can work on it that way.
of course.
Just realized,
Let me just
yes,
open it.
I'm just on pen. Yeah, if you want me to
Uh,
drop this to you, I can do that. We've got a little private chat here in StreamYard that no one else, all these nosy chatters in the chat, they can't see it. I'm gonna message some CSS secrets and ask you questions about, I don't know, like how do you make a link? How do you? I don't want anyone knowing that I don't know how to do that. So here we go. We've got collab mode. Awesome.
okay.
So now I should be able to, yep, I can come in here and we can work on this together. Awesome. So I think that kind of takes care of it. Where do we want to start here? Or we should probably talk through what we've set up. Is there anything in the CSS that you want to point
Yeah, so
out?
let's actually start at the very beginning, which is the HTML.
Cool.
It's a very simple. We've got a simple div with a class of game. I don't know why I call it a game, but let's call it a game. Um, and then inside we've got three things. We've got a player div, and the player has a class of idle because idle means that it's just standing. There's different classes like running and jumping
Okay.
and dying. The next class is the buildings. This is just an empty div that we're going to drop all the buildings inside.
Okay, cool.
And the road is the bottom div that it's going to run along with the character. So it's just going to help us see things moving along.
All right, cool.
Okay, so the CSS that we have, it's actually very basic. If we go to the very beginning, the body has nothing but just centering everything inside. The game, the game is just a relative position, overflow hidden. This is the width of the height I've set it.
Okay.
And I added the background image. You can see it's like from a very dark,
Red.
very dark blue to a very dark red,
Yeah.
like it's a night sky.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, we can improve it, but I'm not a
Yeah, no
designer.
worries.
And I don't know why, but I added a box shadow. But this is just for the container.
It's cool.
So
Does that give it that glow?
yeah, this little glow.
Yeah, it's cool.
So the player, again, it has a position absolute, and you can see that the position is set by two variables, player y and player x. This is the variable that the render function is going to set later on, and this is how we're going to set the position of the player.
Got
Okay,
it.
and the default player position is 20 pixels
Got it. So that's the
Y. This
fallback.
is the on the bottom, and 40 to 80 pixels. This is in the middle. So the default value is in the middle, and we can see that the character is in the middle.
Got it. So like if we were to change that because there's no player X value, he just moved because I just set that to 280
Yeah,
instead of 480.
yeah.
Very cool. I changed it back, but it didn't register, of course. There we go. Cool.
It's okay. Um, Now, of course, because we actually normally setting the top bottom point, and we wanted to set in the games we wanted to set the lower right point, so we actually translated it 100% to the top and 100% to the left.
Okay. Can you break that one down? So are you saying that normally the origin is here, but instead we want it here?
Yeah, not of the canvas, but of the character
Oh,
itself.
okay, okay, got it. Okay. So we
Because we
want
want the right side of the character to hit the wall of the left side of the wall,
got
okay,
it. So as it's running and it
and
runs into a
we
building,
want
we
the
want it to
bottom
stop there.
part of the character to be on the top side of the wall, so we want it to be on the bottom right side, so we just
Got it.
translate it 100% to the top and 100% to the right.
Okay.
The width and height is just width and height. You can change it if you want to.
Okay.
Background size, it changed background size images, but background size contain. I think we can drop it. Never mind.
Keep it there for now.
Yeah. So as I said, there is four classes. Idle means that it's four gifts that I've downloaded from a free repository. There's a lot of free game assets out there if you want
Yeah.
to. So just one of download. So there's four gifts. One for idle, one for running, one for jumping, and one when you die, like drops dead.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the player, and the last thing is the road. Just its position absolute. It's in the bottom. It takes the width of the whole the whole screen plus 10 pixels, because I
Okay.
want the after to move. I can actually move. Nah, never mind. We'll leave it.
Okay.
You know, if I can do it, well, actually, I'm gonna change it. I'm
All right.
gonna uh, do 100% here, and then the after, I'm gonna change it to, yeah. So the after is just the stripe in the middle
Yeah.
of the thing
That's this
of the road.
repeating gradient, right?
Yeah. So the gradient is actually what's creating the dashed road.
That's really cool.
Okay, and
Yeah.
the gradient is 10 pixel wide, so we're gonna move it like the amount of the progress, but divided by 10 pixels.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's it. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have a game. Can we start playing?
Yeah. Let's go.
Let's go.
Cool.
Okay, so let's go to the JavaScript.
Yeah.
This is the most this is the brains. So in the beginning, we have all the DOM variables. Like the score div, I didn't even edit it, but we're gonna add a score div. We can comment it off for now. These
Okay.
two, because
Cool.
I haven't added them yet.
Right.
So we have got the game container. We've got the player div, the building div, and the road. I don't
Cool.
know why it's not the road div. Never mind.
Nice.
I did it very late at night, as you can see.
No worries.
Okay, and we've got some game constant variables. We've got G, it's for the gravity, because every time it jumps up or jumps down, we can actually uh, uh, use the gravity as a variable. So, like
Oh,
for
cool.
example, if we're going to add power ups, we're not going to add power ups in this game, but if we're going to add power ups to the game, so
That's
we can have
cool.
a power up of like less gravity, so the jump will be higher. So you can actually control the gravity using the variable.
Nice.
Then we have an array of buildings. So every time we're going to create and destroy a building, we're going to use this array. And we have an an object of the player, and the player has just three things: the x and the y, the position, and the velocity. When it jumps up, the velocity will be the positive. When it starts to fall down, the velocity will be negative.
Okay, so the velocity is only for it's only like ignore this question if it shows my complete misunderstanding of velocity. But is it only for going up and down, or does it also track
Well,
his horizontal
here,
velocity?
here we're only going to use it for up and down.
Okay, cool.
Here we're going to only use velocity for one direction.
Cool.
Okay, and we have some more variables. We've got a game status, which its initial value is start. When the status changes, obviously it's changed. And we have the speed, the score, the next building. I'm gonna explain what what these variables is when we get to them.
Okay.
And the game progress and last height. We're gonna explain again what each one of these variables says when we get to them. So as for functions, we have, I said this is a single tap game, so we have one on-click event. We can add, if we want to, later on, we can add on keyboard action.
Cool. Yeah.
But it's eventually going to do one thing. What we're going to do inside this event listener is just going to add a switch case, and if the game status is start, we're going to start the game, and if the game status is on, so we're just going to jump.
Cool.
Okay. So you want to start by writing this down? By writing this click?
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah. So I'll just skim through this real quick. So we have a create building function, the render function that's going to be called every
okay, so
frame.
let's go. The next function that we have is the start game function. The start game function would be like to reset everything down and to start the game, to restart the game. It's going to also be like the restart function, like start and restart's the same thing.
Okay.
Then we have the render function, the jump function. The jump function will actually control the velocity. It's a very small function.
Okay.
And then we have the render function. The render function, this is the main thing that runs each time the screen renders, does a lot of math, calculates where everything is, where the player is, where the building is, and everything. And It does it every time, like 60 frames a second.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I'm ready to start writing this event listener.
So this event listener actually just have a very simple switch case inside. So let's do a switch of the game status.
Okay.
Yeah. So if the game status
is it that? I always forget how to do a switch. I always go for the VS Code snippet and just do it. I always have to look up how to do a switch.
Yeah, I normally put the variable in
is it
brackets?
Parentheses?
Yeah, parentheses. Yeah,
cool.
Thank you. So case start, because this is the initial start. So
cool.
Yeah.
Let me just get the MDN switch, because I know I'm going to screw it up.
I can.
You want to walk me through it? Yeah. Okay. It's a colon. Cool.
Yeah. I can send it to you right here. Do you have the secret chat near you?
I do have the secret chat near me. And Steph's here. Anthony points out that you do switch it, flip it, and reverse it. Thank you, Anthony. Ben and Anton, welcome. Some great people coming through. Wow. Awesome. So let's get the switch.
Oh wait, I can write with you. We're doing collab mode.
You can. I just I don't want you to leave me in the dust. Is the only thing I'm afraid of. So case start here. I'll actually just copy it from that. So case start and case end will be start game. Okay, so if the game is starting or ending.
Yeah, because we're actually going to do double cases here. We're going to talk about it later on, because I said that the start game function will also be a restart game function. So at the end of the game, the game status would be end. So it's the same thing. So this is if the game is on the end and the start. But if the case is on, so if the game status is on, so we're gonna jump.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yep, that's it.
Awesome. That's pretty easy. And Ben and B1 Mind are in here. Good to see you both. I know Ben's been here, but I'm saying it again. Awesome. So we've got a nice little switch. That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So let's go to the next function. Next function when we actually click the game, the next function is going to be a start game. Okay,
Cool.
so the start game, we actually need to reset all the game variables.
Okay.
Yeah, do you want me just to copy paste it, or do you want me and we're going to go
We
over
can
each one of them?
we can talk through it if you want, or yeah. So I mean, up to you either way. We can. Oh, thank you for following that UUID. That's all right. You're an honorary horse. That's an interesting name. Yeah. So you're more than welcome to paste it in yourself here, and we can talk through it. If you think it's just like not worth typing, you can definitely paste it
Okay,
into
so
the
let's.
actual CodePen.
Okay, so I think yeah. So
Cool.
the first thing we do is we're gonna take the building array, and we want to erase all the building from that. So we're gonna do a splice.
Okay.
Yeah, a splice from 0 to the building's length, and the building div. This is the building that the place where we put all the building divs inside. So we're gonna clean the inner HTML. Okay, so
Got it.
inner HTML is nothing. Um, As for the player object, so the player x is equals to. We're going back to the initial values.
Cool.
For it's supposed to be, yeah, 480. Yeah, 480
Hmm.
y0, velocity 0.
Cool.
The speed, we have the speed is it's the speed where of the game progress. So there is the game progress, okay, but the game progresses faster every time.
Right. Gets harder a
So the
bit. Yeah.
speed is the variable in which the game progresses each every time, and the speed also increases.
Cool.
Am I making myself clear? We're gonna see it. We're gonna see it later.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're gonna put the speed into one score. Again, we're gonna talk about score later on. So we got to score to 0, and the next building x. This is the next building x is the x. The x value of the building that's supposed to come next. So the first building is at the end of the screen, so it's 960.
Got
And
it.
let's say that this building is 30%, 30 pixels wide. So the next building X will be 990.
Right.
And then, okay, so this is how you know. And on the render function, we're going to check what is this X and what is the next building X. And if the next building X is close enough, we're actually going to build a building. Build
Okay.
the
Cool.
building. Okay, and we have the game progress. It's 0, and the last height. Last height mean the last height of the last building, because I don't want the differences between the building to be too big, so I can't jump from one to another.
Ah,
And I
nice.
started with 0, so the first building will always be shorter, so I can jump because I'm at the 0 level at the beginning. So
Got
I'm
it. That makes
beginning it
sense.
at 0.
I didn't even think that you. Yeah, like that. That seems obvious to me now, but I didn't even think of that. How yeah, you need to make it so that yes, there can be tall buildings, but there has to be you have to be able to work up to them. You can't just go from 0 to 100. You have to get like 0, 20, 40, that kind of
Precisely.
stuff.
You
Awesome.
need to think about the differences. I need to start the game, so I just add the game status to on, and I
Cool.
call the render function,
Awesome. And then that creates a loop, right?
and that create a loop. So okay, so now let's create that loop. Let's go to the render function.
Okay, cool. Render, here we go.
Yeah. So actually, we're going to start at the end. Okay.
Okay.
So at the end of the render function, as I said, we're going to do two things. We're going to take the speed, okay, the speed variable,
Okay.
and we're gonna add and we're gonna make it bigger every time by adding like plus equals and let's say 0.001.
Okay. So just a little bit
Okay,
slightly faster, but this is being called 60 times a second, so
yeah,
it adds
exactly.
up. Yeah.
And every time, so the next line, oops. So the next line we're gonna have the game progress. equals plus equals to the speed. So the this is what I said earlier. So the game progresses every time a bit faster because the speed increases. And
Okay.
if you increase the speed too much, the game's going to be too difficult too much. If you're going to add too little, so it would be too little. Again, if we're going to add, if we had power ups, so we can add a power up of slowing down. And when you slow down, you just remove the slow down the speed, remove like 50% of the speed or something like that. So, but again, we're not going to do power ups today, I think.
Yeah.
uh, yeah. So gain progress plus speed. Oh, I'm not here. I'm in the wrong line. Yeah,
Okay, so
you're.
that's going to get faster. It's going to get much faster because it's going to add one every single render time, right? So that's going to go a lot quicker.
Yeah, so the game progress in the beginning it's going to start like 60 pixels a second because it's 60 times a second and it's one every time, like more than 60, 63. And then it become faster. But I think it's a nice speed. Of course, this is something that you need to play around with and test it according to each individual game. But I think this is going to be a good speed for our game.
Awesome. I might need to wipe my eye real quick. I'm getting like, yeah, just 'cause it's stinging for 1 second. 1 second, a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay, I'm gonna just sit here and tell jokes to everybody. I don't see the chat, so I don't see. This is the chat. Hi, everybody. Good explanation. Thank Ari.
All right. So unprofessional. Who does that? Cool. We are. I'm back, and thank you for holding it down. I mean, honestly, if you want to take it from here, I can just keep rubbing my eyes in the corner. Uh,
Yeah, I can, but I don't think that you want to. Um,
um, Ari,
so
we did show the CSS for a bit. I can kind of scan through it. There's not a whole lot here
not
for the
yet.
most part. Yeah, there will be. We're gonna build some buildings. It's gonna be pretty cool, but there's not a whole lot going on just yet. But we will be digging back into the CSS for sure.
Yeah, of course. We're gonna all the buildings. We're gonna talk about some math of locationing because we're working with sprite sheets.
Awesome.
We're gonna do a lot of CSS.
Cool.
But back to the render. So the next thing that we're going to add in the end of the render, so we're going to add a simple if, and if the game status is on.
Is it game
So
status? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So if it's on, we're actually going to add a request animation frame. So what request animation frame does, it's similar to timeout. Okay, but it doesn't have a specific time. It just renders the next time the screen renders.
Right.
So if you you need in the end here just and add render. So in the next animation frame,
render. Like
yeah,
that?
so
Cool.
like that exactly. So in the next animation frame, it's going to call the render function again. So if your screen renders at 60 frames a second, this would run 60 times a second. But if your screen renders only 50 times a second, so it would render only 50 times a second.
Right.
So normally what we do, and I don't know if you want to get into that, it's up to you. We're actually using a delta time variable. Do you want to edit right now?
If you think it's fine. I mean, I find it interesting. Like I think on a previous live stream we mentioned how like old games like Space Invaders are completely like built upon the fact that their CPU couldn't handle a lot. So like the reason why Space Invaders speeds up the further you get along is because there's less to render on the screen, so it can do it faster.
Yeah.
But you know, like in other games that clearly presents a problem because time should behave the same way no matter what's on the screen, right? So that's
right.
that's pretty interesting. But
so let's go to the beginning of the render function, and we're actually gonna do like set the delta time. So it is a nice concept.
Okay. Cool.
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna add two variables here. You want to add them?
Yeah, sure.
So one is it's this time. Okay. This time meaning this a specific time of like this clock time, okay? And
Okay.
we do it like equals performance dot now. So performance now give you the time in milliseconds dot microseconds. So it's very very accurate.
Okay.
And
Is
what we're
this a
gonna do,
function?
yeah, yeah,
Cool.
like that. So what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna now do const of uh, of dt. We normally call it dt, so it's delta
Cool.
time. So we're going to change it in a minute, but delta time equals to to this time minus last time. So now we have the difference between them. Okay, and the next thing we do, we're going to do last time. Yeah.
I think this.
Oh,
Sorry, it's my fault.
yeah.
So this time,
So
last time. Cool.
and the next thing we do is just going to add last time equals this time. And I just want to make sure that we have the variable last time. I'm
Let's
going
have
to
a
add it here.
check. Cool. So we got edit up at the top, right?
Yeah, I've added it. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Cool.
Yeah. So now each time this delta time is the difference between the renders. So if you render slowly, the delta time would be bigger. If you render fast, the delta time would be smaller, and you can multiply everything you do in this delta time. But before we're going to do it, there is something that we need to do, and it's just out of experience. We're normally going to do a math min of 32. Sorry,
Okay.
max of 8. Now I'm going to explain what I'm doing here in a second. Yeah. So now I have a min and a max, of the frame, because the DT now is going to be, if you are running in 60 frames a second, it's going to be 16.666. But if you're rendering faster, it's going to be smaller. So if you get to 8, so it means that you render at 120 frames per second. It's crazy. No, almost nobody's doing it.
Got it.
But if you render at 30 frames a second, so it's 32. But slower than that, it's like your computer is stuck. So I put it on 32. And the last thing I divided the whole thing by 16.666. So now when I have a normal 60 frames per second rhythm, this dt would equal to 1. So when I multiply something by dt and it's running in 60 frames per second, there's no change. But if the frame rate drops, so the dt increases, and then everything is going to multiply accordingly. And if the speed goes up, the dt goes down.
Okay, cool. So
Okay.
yeah, is
So
it cool if you
now,
take a minute and let me make sure that I do understand it? Is that cool?
yeah, of course, of course, of course.
And then I'm gonna get to El Evidente's question, but I just want to make sure that I'm getting this. So first off, we are in this this time minus last time, we're checking to see if or not if, we're finding the difference between the last time we called render and right now, right? So that's going to come back
Exactly.
in milliseconds. So because we're calling performance.now, and then what we're doing is we're getting the max of that. So it's either going to be so math.max is going to choose the larger number of the two, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So it is going to either choose 8, or if
Yeah.
it
So
is, yeah.
the 8 part is almost it won't never happen.
Okay.
But the 32 part, this is the important thing, because if you
Okay.
render slow, like if you render at 15 frames a second, so each one of the delta time would be like way too high.
Right.
It would be like 50. So you don't want it.
So we're optimizing our game for 60 FPS, but we are still handling if it goes on either end. It'll still run essentially the same way, just with fewer frames showing, but it's not going to slow
Precisely
the game
because
down or speed it up too quick.
If you go down a bit to the place where we set the game progress,
Mhm.
okay. So now we're going to multiply each of them in dt.
Got it. That makes
Okay,
sense.
so if the dt is if the renders is slow, okay, so the dt is higher, so the game progress would be bigger in each render. And if the render is higher, so the dt is slower, so the game progress smaller in each render. So even if you have switching frame rates, it would still move smoothly.
At a constant rate. Cool. That's really cool. Can we hit El Evidente's question? A lot of frameworks use request animation frame, right? Are you talking about game frameworks or animation
Yeah,
frameworks?
yeah. So if he's talking about game framework, so I've worked a lot with GameMaker and Construct and Unity. So yeah, they all have a DT variable built in, and this is exactly what the DT does. But they don't give it to you. They give it the raw number, like so it's 16 point something.
Gotcha.
What I normally like to do is, again, just take the number divided by 16.666 and treat it as one, because the middle level it would be one.
Okay.
The optimus level would be one.
Got it. I think El Evidente is talking about request animation frame specifically, but
Yeah,
or maybe not. No, sorry. I think you answered their question. Awesome.
yeah. Well, of course, they use request animation frame because it's performance wise, it's much better way. You don't say the browser to render at a specific time. You tell him the next time you're going to render, do these functions.
Cool.
So it's much better performance wise.
Awesome. All right, we're set up with that. We got a delta time and got our set progress and re-render. So now what do we want to hit, Amit?
Now what we want to hit. So let's continue with the render. Let's render the building.
Awesome. I'm excited for this.
Yeah. Really, is it awesome?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's render the building. So the first thing that we want to do is to check if we need to create a new building. So let's talk about that. So we'll do a simple if, and if you remember, we talked earlier about a variable called next building x. So we're going to check if the next building x, is smaller, okay, than the game progress. So that's where we are right now, plus the width of the whole screen, which is 1960. And we actually want to be one step ahead of ourselves.
Do we have 960 as a variable somewhere? No.
No, I have no. Just put it as
Cool.
hard. Okay. And we want to actually be one step ahead. So this is an optional thing, but we can add plus speed. So now we know that we're going to create the building when it's just before it's supposed to come into view.
Okay.
Okay.
But it'll be hidden because we have the CSS overflow hidden, right?
Exactly. It's going to be hidden, but just we're going to be one. But again, because we're using delta time, everything needs to be multiplied by delta.
Now, do we need to multiply this by
just the speed. No, just the
speed. Cool.
Yeah.
Just checking.
If so, we're going to create a building. So we'll create a function.
Do we have a create building function?
Yeah. No. We need to write it. We're going to write it down there. I think I have it on the boilerplate below the render function. Yeah.
Cool. Yes, we do have it. Nice. All right. I just want to. So we'll call it from here, and then we'll build it out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So what we're going to do in this function is just create a building, and we need to create a building object that we're going to put inside the building's array, and we need to create a building object element DOM
like a
element.
div or yeah,
Yeah.
for HTML in the
And then
DOM.
and after we're gonna create a building, we're going to start playing around with CSS. So
Cool.
yeah, so there's a lot of work to do.
All right.
Yeah, so the create building function. Let's create a const of building, which is going to be an object, and yeah, and the building you can enter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and the X going to be the next building X because that's where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Its width. We're gonna do a random width, and I want the width to be somewhere between 60 and 120 pixels. Okay,
Okay.
so it's a simple math. We're gonna do 60 plus math random
Got it.
uh,
60 plus.
times 60. Yeah, but I think just for it doesn't really matter. I normally put them inside of a math round, just so I would have a normal
Inside of a what?
math round. But it doesn't really important. I don't know why I said it. Forget about it.
Okay.
And the height. So the height, we're gonna play around here. I'm gonna do like again. I want it to be a random between 30 and 150. So we can start exactly the same thing. Like do 30. I'm talking about the height, right? Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I was reading the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
No,
not
no, no,
reading
no,
the
no.
chat.
That's all good. I'm juggling so many things. It's on me completely. You're doing great. So 30 plus and then math.random again.
Yeah, math random, and let's like add 120. But here we're gonna do a little trickery because, as I said earlier, we have the last height,
Right.
and I want the last height, the next height, to be no more than 30 pixels higher or lower than the last height.
Okay.
So we're gonna add max math min and oops, excuse me, and a math max of yeah, everything here, uh, comma last doesn't give me height. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so it's last height minus 30, right? Comma last height plus 30, right?
We'll see. So I'm gonna. I think we have to get rid of
So
that.
what we have here is this is just a random number between 30 and 150, and
Okay.
there's but it takes the maximum number between this and the last height minus 30, so it will always be more than last height minus 30, and it will be minus, oh yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
and it will be the minimum of, so it will be less than the last height plus 30.
Okay. So yeah.
by the by
Yeah.
the way, it's not doing last height plus random 30 minus random times 60 would not give you the same result.
I can't visualize that, but I'll take your word for it.
So because of the standard deviation, if you do it like last height plus 30 minus random times 30, um, so most of the differences would be around zero. So the differences between the buildings would be very low, and if you do it like that, the differences would be bigger.
Okay. Okay. I'm not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trust me on that.
Yeah. I think I'm still just having trouble picturing even that thing, but it feels like that's a bit of a red herring to get into. I just want to make sure that we've got this just before we move on. So just for anyone in the chat who's not super familiar with math.random, it returns a number between 0 and 1. So usually it's like 0.53835, right? So it's just a decimal. It will sometimes approach or hit 1, but it's never going to be bigger. So that's why this will return a number between 30 and 120, because 120 times 1 is going to give us 120. 120 times 0 will give us 30. And so, or wait, no, sorry. This is going to give us a number between 30 and 150, right?
Yeah,
Amit? Cool.
yeah.
Got it. So just in case anyone's confused of how that works that out, and then max and min are going to make sure that we aren't returning any numbers that are much bigger or much smaller than the previous one, or than the previous building's height. And we'll see that it works. Maybe once we have it all fixed, we can remove some of those stop gaps and see how the game gets immediately impossible, right? Yeah,
Pretty,
cool.
yeah.
All right, yeah. So if you're not following, one thing I think that we did not point out, or rather I did not point out, is that what we're building. I think that this will help people to understand. Let me actually see what's Excalidraw, right? Let's go Excalidraw. I just want to real quick do a quick Excalidraw thing. Not to like spoil the reveal or anything, but I think it'll just help people understand what all these numbers are adding up to, right? So you've got your character here, and they're running along the road, and the buildings are going to just keep coming. It's just going to be an infinite runner, and you have to have your character jump onto the buildings and not get stuck before this building gets destroyed that they're on. So that's what's happening, is that we're trying to find out the height that we want to make the building, but clearly if this building is way too high, it's an automatic game over. It's not very fair. So hopefully that clears up a little bit of I don't know, any confusion or some confusion that you might have. We said infinite runner game, but I wasn't very clear on that. So cool. Let's get back to it. Sorry about the quick derailing. I think that might clear up
No,
a
it's
little
good.
bit.
I love your explanation, because I normally, when I talk about things like I did the all, I already know it, so I talk fast through it. But it's great.
Absolutely.
Great thing.
That's you're here to be the game master, the CSS master, the JavaScript master. I'm here to make sure we're all kind of understanding it. So you're doing your job, man.
So let's talk about CSS. Let's build the building div, and so we can go for the CSS. If we go to the function, no, let's go to the function, the create building function. We're not through with that.
Cool.
Not through with that by far.
Cool.
Yeah. So now we're going to create a const. You create a const of a building div. Now here's the thing. The building div, we're just going to do create building div, create element dot div, document create element.
Sorry, I spaced out a little bit. So building div document. Cool. Create.
Yeah, so each building div is actually, and this is the weird part, it's actually going to be created by 12 different pieces. And then in the end, when the ray explode the building, each one of the pieces is going to explode in a different direction. Okay, so that's where you're going to do a loop and create different divs inside this div, and then we're going to need to position the background image of the building differently for each div in the CSS. So it's going to be a bit difficult. So let's move. So yeah, we have the create building of a div. Let's just add the building. Class list. Let's give it building, obviously. And we're actually going to do two more things. We're going to add a building width. You can start at building div.style.width. It's the building width, so it's this value.
Okay, so building.width.
Yeah, and building div.style.height is going to build the building height. Yeah, you're gonna need like this.
Good call. Oh, we're both getting in there. It's all good.
Yeah, and the next thing we're gonna do is building div style.
Okay.
Dot set property. So maybe we not have to do it now, but we're gonna need to set two properties for each building. One is I want each building to be in a different color, so we need to set a hue color, a hue angle. Let's call it like that.
A hue
And
angle. So are we
yeah,
doing a CSS property like this, or
yeah,
not
set
familiar?
property, and then you write hue. No, just add the two lines.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah,
That
hue angle, it's okay.
or
And the
that.
next and comma, and then you can just add a value. And again, I'm going to add a value of a random of between 0 and 360. So it's random times 360.
Cool.
Uh, uh, Again, plus degrees.
Thank you.
And the next thing we're actually going to, the next thing is the building image X, but we're not going to do it right now. Uh, we're going to do the CSS, and we're going to get back to this property later on because it's a bit complicated.
Okay.
But what we are going to do now is a simple loop, a simple for loop.
Cool.
Yeah. We're going to add, I know you have, let's do this. Cool.
Perfect.
And in each loop, we're actually going to create a fragment div. Just like the building div, we're going to do a const fragment div document. Yeah, thank you. I'm actually going to copy paste it, and I'm going to explain what each variable
All right.
says.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. So the class list is easy. It's just the building fragments. Okay. And
Yeah.
then I have 5 variables. Okay, custom property. So the custom property is transfer X, transfer Y, rotate X, rotate Y, and rotate Z. Okay.
Okay.
And so at the beginning, each fragment of the building has a specific position, but at the end, when it explodes, so this is how much it's going to move. So
Cool.
it can move to the X 120 pixels, to the Y 160 pixels, and it turns around on all 3 angles. Okay, so
Yeah.
these variables are we're just going to use them when the building is destroyed. When the building is constant, when the building is standing, the fragments has a very a specific order.
So each of these is the end state. Once the building is destroyed, they're going to
Exactly.
transition to these values.
Exactly, the end state
And
of
that's
the
why we're not setting it here as like a style. We're setting it as a property because it can just sit there on the element, not affecting it until I assume, set a class on it, and then these take over and we do a
precisely
CSS animation. Awesome. Got it.
precise. And the next thing we're just going to add each one of the fragment div to the building div.
Cool. Makes sense.
Yeah. So, and after the loop, so here we're actually going to add the div that we created to the
Building.
to the building object. Yeah, that's the word I said. So let's just add building.div. Yeah, and equals to the building div.
Got it.
And now we're going to add this div to the building div, to the buildings div, to the build. Okay.
Got it.
No,
I was
it's okay. We need to do both. We need to
okay.
push the object into the buildings array, and we need to push the div into the buildings div.
Right.
We need to do both of them.
Buildings div dot
Append child. Append child. Exactly.
Cool. And then
Building div. Yeah. So the last thing that we have to do is the next building X is actually now you need to add it. You need to add the building width to the next building X.
Oh, okay. So, got it. Okay, I'm starting to more deeply understand those values. So
Again, the next building X is it checks every time when the next building is supposed to appear, and if it's supposed to appear in the next frame, it actually builds it. This is the function that it runs,
Right.
and then in the end, it moves this value to the end to the next building.
Got it. Yeah. In my head, I was assuming that next building X was going to be the distance between the runner and the building, and as I got closer to the building, it would eventually reach 0. But next building X is always going to be just growing and growing and growing, and it's getting built.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the player.
Cool.
Right
Good
now.
to know. Awesome. And
So
so
we'll
next
add-
building X plus equals building width, because we've built that building. So now time to build the next one, or rather, we're setting ourselves up to build the next one. And when that comes into view, we'll trigger this function again because of the render function. Got it.
And the last thing is we're going to add the last height to the building height.
Cool.
So this is the function, the building function. It's a bit complicated, but now let's talk about the CSS.
All right, I'm excited.
Yeah, so we're going to create a new building class.
Cool.
Now, the building is going to be position absolute, obviously, and it's going to have from the bottom, it's going to be on 20 pixels because the road is 20 pixels.
Cool.
So we're going to have bottom 20 pixels, and the left is going to be very much like the player. So we're going to have a variable of building X.
Like that?
So, yeah, it's okay. Building X.
You want that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just let me know what you prefer. And
let's have a default value of 960 pixels.
Cool.
So in case of something happens, it's going to be in the end. Cool. Just as something. And that's it for now. And now let's have end the fragment. So we're going to add like end. This is how we wrote it.
What?
The class. I think. Wait a minute. I think.
I don't know. I wasn't sure. Building fragment.
Oh. Yeah, I think we did like something like. Yeah. Right.
Yep. You can do that. Oh, okay. Cool. Got it. That's clever. Got it.
Okay, so in the fragment, so it's each fragment is one of the 12 pieces. Okay, so it's going to be also have a position absolute. Obviously, oops, I'm not in the right. Yeah, so it's going to be a position absolute. Obviously.
Okay.
And the width, because we have we want to have 4 in the width and 3 lines, right? Yeah. So the width is going to be 25%, obviously, right? And the height is going to be a third, so like 33.334%. Yeah. No, I normally like. So, and as I said, each one of them is going to be a fragment of the house. So we're going to do something. We're going to use a sprite sheet. Now I've created this sprite sheet. I'm going to put it now in the chat.
Okay.
So everybody can see it. Can you put it like on the screen just so I could explain what you're seeing?
Pull it up. Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I created this again by using free assets. So each one of them is a building, and I don't know why they have this awful color, but again, each one of them has going to be in different hue.
Cool.
So each one of the building we see, imagine that it's divided into 4 rows and 4 columns, and 3 rows, right?
Yep.
So this whole thing is actually divided into 16 columns. Okay.
Oh, this entire thing. Got it. Okay. Yep. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. So now we need to give this each fragment this image as a background image, and we need to position each of them according to its right building and according to its right position in the building.
Got it. So we're gonna have a div that pretty much takes up like that much of it,
Exactly.
right? And so yeah, so
Exactly.
that's gonna be one div. This is gonna be a different div, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a bit smaller, but yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So it's gonna be
It's,
those sections, and so we're using one image, and just gonna be positioning it. Cool.
yeah, and
Cool.
we're gonna use a position background to position each of them precisely.
Awesome. I'm just
So first of all,
closing
let's give
these.
it a background image. I'm gonna copy also the background image just because it's would be easier. This is the background image,
That's what we just
and
saw.
the
Okay.
background size. Oops, why not? The background size, it's gonna be how much is it gonna be?
We said it's divided into twelfths, right? Or sorry, no, sorry. It's divided into twelfths. Is that what you said?
So each building is gonna be created out of 12 fragments because it's 4 on 3, but the whole thing is gonna be 16 columns on 3 columns. So this whole thing is gonna actually be 1600% wide and 300% tall.
Got it. Because okay, so because we're doing one of these, and so it's going to be
Yeah,
like one,
even less.
two,
It's
three.
like in the middle of the window.
Okay. So yeah, and then we got 16 of these columns across. So that's why it's so much more on wrong one, on the X than it is on the Y.
Yeah, so
Got it.
16 columns over 3.
And Jacob asks, we're doing it this way for the explosion effect?
Yeah, because I want at the end I want each one of the fragments to move somewhere and to be exploded. Theoretically, I could create the building just as one piece, and then in the end replace that piece with 12 different pieces and then explode them. But I thought it would be even more difficult. So this is the way we're gonna do it.
Cool.
Yeah, so the next thing we're going to add is just a filter because we already had a hue variable. So we add a hue rotation. It's very easy. Just because I love colorful things. And we had the variable of hue, obviously.
Was
Again, you
that it,
can
or
add
was
a.
it hue angle?
I don't remember what you put in.
Yeah, I think it might have been hue angle. We can change it to hue.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's hue.
Yeah, I just changed it there.
Okay. So yeah, the next thing we're gonna do with these fragments is just to position the background. The not just we need to position them in the right position
Mhm.
and to position the background in
Right.
the right position. Okay, so um, before that, let's get back to the place where you created the hue variable,
Okay.
and we are going to create another one. We're going to call it building image X. As you've seen in the image, we have 4 buildings, and the building image X is just which building am I choosing? Okay,
One, two,
because I
three,
want
four.
each of them to be different. Now, I'm going to do a strange little math, but I'm going to explain it in a minute. I'm gonna do a math of floor of 1 to 4. So this is gonna actually give me 0, 1, 2, or 3. Okay,
Okay.
math
Yeah.
floor of math random times that, and I'm gonna multiply it by 27.08333, and I'm gonna explain what this number
Okay.
means. So if you go back to the image, I said there's 16 columns, meaning each column is 6.5% of the 100%, right?
Right.
Now, the background position, it works actually rather strange because if the background position, the X position is at 0, so it's the left side of the image. But if it's at 100%, it's at the right side of the image. It's not on the right of the image. So it doesn't actually move 100%. It just moves 100% minus the width of the element.
Okay, this is gonna be one that I'm gonna have to see and like tweak with a little bit. So I think I'll get it more once it's there. I think these kinds of visual things help.
If you put up the image again
Yep,
of
yep.
the okay, so imagine if the x value is at 0, if you have something that is sitting in the far left top right corner, okay, so this is our square. Okay, now if you move it one, and this is when the x position, the background position is at 0.
Right.
Now when you move it, the x position to 100%, you think that it would move 100% to the left, right?
Over here, but
Yeah, but the left side won't be in the right side of the image. It's actually going to be skewed to the left, because it doesn't actually move 100% of the width of the image. It moves 100% minus the width of the element.
100% minus the width. So it's going to be here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, weird. Okay, I was not expecting
Exactly.
that. Got it.
So if we want the image to be on the, for example, the fourth building, so we need to move it not 6.25% times 3. Okay, because we move it from 0 to 1, 2, and 3, because we have 4 columns in each building. So 100% minus 6.25% times 3 is 81.25%. And this is the location of the fourth building. But we need to, each building, we want the building before that, so we take this number and divide it by 3. Okay, so 81.25 divided by 3, this is the number we got, 27. When I was on Steph's show, I was talking about math. And I said that I feel like I'm doing math all the time. This is what I was talking about. I feel like everybody lost me.
This bit is complicated, and I think part of it is just dealing with percents and then the columns and things.
You know what? Let's continue with the CSS, and then we'll have something to work with.
That's
and
what I'm thinking. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Numbers.
Because just talking about numbers abstractly is hard for me.
Okay, so
cool.
So let's continue with the CSS, and we'll have something to work from, and then we're gonna play around with it. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah.
So the next thing we're gonna do in the fragment fragment div in the CSS, we need to, as I said, we need to give each one of them a top and a left. A top and a left, and no, but we need to do it in a loop, because each one of them is gonna do a bit different. So you want me to copy paste the loop, because I already made them, and we're gonna explain how it works.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. So the first loop, this one. Okay. This is the x-axis. Okay. So as I said, we have 4 columns on each building. Okay. So the loop goes from 0 to 4. And what I'm doing, I'm selecting, okay, the 4n plus each loop, and I give it the left position of 25% times I. That meaning that 4n plus 1 would be on 0%, 4n plus 2 would be on 25%, 4n plus 3 would be on 50%, and 4n plus 3 and 4n plus 4 would be on 75%. Okay, this is the left.
So, yeah.
And as for the background position, again, I said for the x, I said each one of them is just 1/16th of the 100%. 16th is just 6.25%. So I give each of them the building image, the number that I've just talked about, which is like 0 or 24/7 or one of its multiplies, and I add 6.25% times I.
Okay. And this
so I give each of them a different position on the x background.
A different background position. Got it. And then we're adding that into the top is where we're going to put
Yeah,
that.
so the next loop is actually very much the same, just for the y-axis. So for the y-axis, we have only 3 lines. So we have 0 from 0 to 3. Yeah, I don't know that question. Maybe I think so. But I didn't want to do it. I thought it would be just easier.
Cool.
But yeah, theoretically it's actually the same because you have the numbers here, so you can just translate it.
Good question.
Yeah. So again, but we are having a very different nth child selector because we are selecting a range. We are selecting a row. So this range is from n. It's like, for example, it's like from n plus 1 to minus n plus 4, and then it's from n plus 5 to minus n plus 9.
We're having a range. Interesting. And
yeah, because you need to select each row. So how do you select a row? You select a line. You select a range. Excuse me.
Interesting. Yeah, I rarely ever do this. So this is, I've either done this very rarely or never. I'm not sure.
The article I talked about mapping mouse position, you actually create a grid on the screen, and I talk about this exact method because how do you select each column and how do you select each row?
Yeah.
So this is just the idea, and again, I give each one of them a top and a position, a background position. It's very easy. So the top gets 0 because it's the I equals to 0 top times 50. The middle, it's in the 50%, and the bottom is 100%.
Yeah, the Y like going up and down for top, that's a bit simpler for me to wrap my head around, and then helps me understand the other one a bit better. So hopefully for everyone watching,
if we want, we can actually create like a building inside the div.
Cool.
And just play around with it. Building.
Or do we want to do it? I mean, we build so many things in here, and you know what? I think we will see it as the game progresses, and we are at like an hour 24. I don't want to hold us up too much. So yeah, I think we should keep going.
Okay.
And we'll be able to go back and go, oh, okay, so this is what this bit's doing. You know what I mean?
Okay. So let's let's go back to the render function. We're actually going to need to render the buildings and the right now.
Cool.
So exactly where you are. After we create a building, we need to create a simple loop, which we can do like a for each.
So buildings dot for each.
Buildings for each, and we need 2 things. We need the buildings. Let's. But I'm gonna need
the
index.
Cool.
Okay. So first of all, what we need to do is to check the base, the building compared to the player. So let's add, actually before the loop, let's add a few variables. So one of them is going to be the base. The base is the Y position of the minimum Y position of the player. Cool. Okay, so where there's no building, it's going to be a floor. But where is a building, we're going to check which one of the building it's underneath the player, and the height of the building is going to be the base. It's going to be like the floor.
Got it.
Okay.
So it's the player's
so
base.
the base,
Cool.
the initial base, obviously it's 0. We are going to do a little array. We're going to call it destroy buildings. So each building that is already after a certain point, we're going to add it to this array, and then later on we're going to destroy it because we don't want to destroy it inside of for each loop.
Cool.
And I'm going to add a next building variable just because I want to know where the next building wall is, and I want to treat the next building. So we're just going to add let next building, and for now the initial value, obviously, um, yeah, it's gonna be the building's index plus one.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so because it's the next one,
Yeah,
that's why it's
no,
plus one.
actually, excuse me, the initial value is going to be zero, obviously, and then
Okay.
in the index we're going to change it every time to building index plus one when we're over this building.
Okay.
So we're going to do an if, because if the building X is smaller than the player X, that means that the building that we're over the building, right?
The building X is small. Yeah, right. That means the player is above. Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to add if this is correct. So the base is the building height, and the next building is the building index plus one.
So base equals building. Is it dot
Height.
height?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you said what about the next
The
thing?
next building is buildings index ix plus one. That's it.
Cool.
So now we know that if I'm over a specific building, my base is the height of the building, and I know what the next building is. We're gonna check the next building x in a second.
Okay.
Okay. Um, and the next thing we not want to do is the next if we're going to check if the building X is smaller than the destroy point. Destroy point, I just put it by, it's not a really variable. I just put it as a game progress plus 180 pixels. So you know that when the building X comes to the 180 pixels, yeah, so a point, so it would destroy. So we're actually going to push the index inside the destroy buildings array that we created earlier.
Okay. So then okay, so index goes into destroy. Okay, wait, okay, so
Destroy
destroy.
buildings, yeah,
We got that push, right? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, exactly.
And we just push
Index,
the index in there?
yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
later on, we're going to loop through the destroy buildings array, and we're going to destroy each one of those buildings because
Cool.
I don't
Okay.
want to destroy a building inside a for each loop.
Got it.
Because when I destroy a building, I actually take it out of the array, and I don't want to do it inside of it.
Yeah, that's gonna make things shift
And
around.
the next thing, the last thing we're going to do inside of this for each loop is going to set the building.div. So this is the div element dot style. We're going to set the property, the x property that we set earlier in the
Mm-hmm.
CSS. So this is the building position. So style dot set property, and the property is building x. Yeah. So the value is the building x, obviously, building dot
Got it.
x, but minus the game progress because the game also progress, and then each of them.
Got it.
Yeah, and then we'll just add a plus pixels,
Cool.
and that's it. And now we render each player. Actually, if we're gonna start now, I think if I click on the button, it's supposed to render. Hmm.
What's the click listener on?
Huh?
What's the
Oh,
it's on
there's
everything?
wait a minute. I'm trying to
Yeah,
log
click on
something
game
because
controller.
it's supposed to work, no?
Maybe. So it start game firing.
Ooh, yeah, the game's firing. What have we forgot?
Yep. Okay, you're doing the same thing. Yeah. Are we moving the player at all, or we should see buildings coming in, right?
Yeah, we should see building. I don't see the buildings getting inside the building div.
Okay, interesting.
Building.
Is create buildings being called at all? When does create buildings get called? If next building X is less than game progress, plus 960 plus.
No, it doesn't.
Can we? What happens if we just gonna do a create building, just a rogue one? Will that at least move it? No, there's nothing coming through.
Okay, so I think the problem is that the create buildings doesn't.
Oh, Ari. Although it's playing Ari, so I think we do. Game container, yeah. Game container is .game. So
No, the
the game starts. Like the render function starts to loop, yeah, because that start game is from that. No. No need to apologize. I appreciate you you helping out with it. No apologies needed.
So from some reason, the if at line 77 just doesn't fires.
If next building X, is that a thing? I'm thinking sure our variables are correct. Where's next building X defined? Oops. Okay, it's up. Nope. It's okay. Yeah, it's there. Let next building X is equal to 960. Console log next building X. What's it coming out as? In before undefined error, Jacob says. Where would the first building be placed? It should be placed just off screen, right, Amit?
Well, yeah, but again, the function the create building doesn't fires because the if doesn't fire.
Right.
So I'm trying to understand why. The game progress is at none.
Game progress is at none. Are we calling a render function? Yeah, we have to be, right? That calls on click. So right? Yeah, start game calls, and then start game should call render. Where is start game? Render. Start game. Console log start game. Yep. Reset all game variables and then render. Okay, so that is getting called. Let's try to debug it for another minute, and then let's maybe paste in the completed version.
So yeah, no. The problem is at line 109. The game progress. That's the problem.
Do we want to get rid of the delta time and just go with what we had originally?
I just want to check in a second.
No rush.
What do you want from me? Yeah, I don't know what this. Okay, let's try getting rid from the data for a second.
Yeah, maybe something with that DT. That was the one thing that I don't think you had in your original one, right?
Yeah, but okay. So the problem is the delta time. Oh, hey, I can see the building move.
Oh, really? Let me.
Yeah, click on it. Click on it. Click again. Yeah.
There we go. Chat. Let's give a round of applause to him. Amit for that. We got a little troubleshooting. He got it. So our character is not doing anything. Jumping on the buildings. But this is the progress that like we've got this win, and we see how it works, right? So as you might be, as let's see, so if you click there, I think I clicked. Yeah, there we
So
go.
I don't know why the
So you see, like, as I zoom in, you can see it's a bunch of divs stacked, and so as those get destroyed later, um, they will fly in different directions, like in pieces, because they're kind of already in pieces, but they seem solid. And you can see that there's not this there's never a huge gap between buildings, right? There's always like it's always doable, right? Like
you're talking about
we're
the
not.
height.
I'm sorry.
You're talking about the height.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. There's never a really small building next to a super tall building because of that check that Amit put in earlier. It's never bigger than that, like 30 pixels off, and that is a height that the character can jump. So that works. I'm trying to zoom out now, but I can't.
Yeah. So
Refresh.
I don't know why we have a problem with the DT here.
Not sure.
It's
Try to
not
open up a new
supposed
window.
to do this problem.
I don't know.
Uh,
I'm not too worried about it for right now. If we want to hop to a more
okay.
finished version or something, and then go through and explain the cooler parts.
Okay. So let's continue. Just one next slide. No. Okay, so let's forget for a second about the delta time,
Cool.
and we're gonna get back to. Uh, you know what? It drives me crazy. Just give me the one more second.
No worries, no worries. It's all good.
If I'm
I
taking
totally
this
know that
one,
feeling. I know chat does too, right? Chat, how you're just like, yeah, but I, I got this. Just let me, right? I've been there a billion times where
yeah,
you
I
know
don't know.
it's
So okay, so never
no
mind.
worries.
So let's forget about the delta time for now. Let's delete it from here, and we're gonna get back to that in the end. I hope. I'm sorry, but you understand the concept of delta time. But from some
Yeah.
reason, the delta time is none, and I don't know why, and we can't really test it right now. So let's continue. We have the now we need to render the player. Okay, so now we see the buildings move, right?
Right.
Okay, so let's render the player, and when we need to render the player, it's the first thing that we need to do is we're gonna do a little if, and we want the first thing I like to check is if the player is jumping or falling. Okay, so I said that the player no, not that we don't have a
Sorry.
status. We have a v, the velocity. Remember we talked about the velocity, and
Yes,
we
yes,
want to
yes.
check. We said that if the velocity is positive, that means that it jumps up, and if the velocity is lower than zero, that means that it drops down.
Got
So
it.
let's do that. If the velocity is bigger than zero, that means that it's jumping the up. Okay, so we're gonna have the player y, okay, uh, increase by the velocity. Okay, so plus equals player v,
Cool.
uh, and the player v, we're gonna change it just like we changed the speed and then increase the game progress in the speed. So now we're gonna change the player velocity.
By the
Okay,
gravity.
by gravity, we're gonna actually do we do a math max. Well, no, because we want a math max of zero and a player v minus gravity.
Player v equals math dot max, and then we have
Zero,
0, and then
yeah,
player v
v
minus.
gravity. G,
Cool. Oh, it's just g. Cool.
yeah. Okay, so now the velocity is actually dropping. So imagine what happens when I render. When I start jumping, the velocity. Oh, we haven't done the jump function. Okay, let's go for a second for a jump function because it's a very
Okay.
short function.
Cool. And
It's
we
on
will come
top.
back to your question, El Evidente. I will not forget. Jump. Here we go. Got it.
So the jump is it's very simple. First of all, I need to check one thing. If the player velocity is not zero, meaning that it's already either jumping or falling. So if it's not zero, I'm just returning false. Okay? Because I'm not jumping. Again, if we have power-ups, maybe we can allow double jump or something, but
Yeah.
for now, that's it. And what we're doing is just setting the velocity to player V. Player V equals normally.
So is this in an else?
No, well, yeah, I guess you can add it in else, but you don't need to.
Oh
Because
yeah, because the return. Got it. Cool.
Yeah. Uh, so player V equals to 3.2. Again, this is a number that you can play around around with. The bigger it is, the more velocity it has. So now think of what we've seen in the render function. So let's go back to the render function. So when it starts jumping, the velocity is 3.2, meaning that every tick it goes up 3.2 pixels. But then the velocity actually drops in 0.098 every time. So it slows down when it comes up. Okay? Until the velocity comes to zero.
Okay. If so.
Okay?
Yep.
Now the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna add an else. And in this else, we're gonna check if the velocity it's not bigger than zero. That means that it's actually either standing or falling down. But if the
wait, is it an else if or an else with an if inside?
Whatever it's I do it like this, like else if.
Okay,
and
cool.
What I want to check if the base is the height, if it's smaller than the player Y. Okay.
Else if a base is smaller than player Y.
That means that it's now falling down because the base is lower than its Y. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
But and it's not jumping up. We know that it's not jumping up because the velocity is not bigger than zero, and the base is lower. That means that we know that it's falling down.
Right, because these should be equal if the player is running on a base.
Exactly.
Cool.
Okay. So if the player is falling down, so we're gonna set the player Y. Okay. To again we're gonna do a max of the base itself because I don't want it to be lower than the base. So it's gonna be a max of base and the player Y plus the player V.
Okay.
Okay.
Why are we adding velocity for them falling?
Excuse me?
Are we adding velocity here?
Yeah, because you add to the player Y, you want to add variable so it would drop.
Okay.
But then the next thing you're gonna do is take the player V, and then you take the player V and remove the gravity from it. So at the beginning, again, think of a jump, okay? So we have the velocity that it's above zero, and then it jumps, and the velocity goes down to zero, and now it's the player is in the air, but it's higher than the gravity, okay? So every time I'm going to add a velocity, the velocity is negative, so I'm going to add it to the player Y. I mean the player Y is going down because the velocity is negative. I am doing a plus, but I'm doing a plus to a negative number. We know that the velocity is
Thank
negative.
you. That's what I couldn't figure. Yeah.
Okay.
That makes a lot of
and
sense.
Now in the velocity, I'm making the velocity lower by gravity every time. So it starts falling slow and then it's falling faster as it falls more.
So this is getting smaller because V is negative because we checked to make sure of that here. Cool.
Exactly.
That's what my confusion was. Thank you.
Exactly. And the last thing we do, I'm just to keep things organized, I'm doing an else in the end. And the else meaning that it's not jumping, it's not falling, so I'm just putting the player V equals to zero, just so we know that the velocity is zero. Cool. Okay, and this means that it's running right now.
Cool.
Straight running. Okay. So now the next thing we're going to do is we have a different animation for each one of them. So we can do a very simple class list. I'm going to copy it in and I'm going to talk about what it does.
Yeah, go for it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna grab this question while we have kind of a change here. Thank you for following Average Monkey Coder, and for all the people who came in and followed while we've been doing this. I really appreciate you following and you being here to support the channel and support Amit. It's great. It's great to have you. So, El Evidente says, Amit, what is your approach to planning projects like this out? Do you start on paper? Do you just dive in and code and play around?
So actually, right now, because I've done hundreds of these types of games, I have the basic already figures out, as you can see. But normally, I am a paper guy. I have a lot of papers here, and even pencil, like old school pencils.
And playing
Uh,
cards.
and cards. No, but when I play, when I plan this game, yeah, I actually draw a window and I start drawing the buildings, but in stick figures
That's cool.
because I can't really draw.
Yeah.
But yeah, this helps me understand what are the components that I need to work with. What is the way I need to work through them.
Awesome. Awesome. That's a good question.
Yeah. So just added this line 113. So all it does, it actually checks if the player's velocity is at 0. Again, if it's at 0, so the class would be run. If it's higher or lower, that means that it's jumping. Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the player. So I think.
Now we need to add. Did we already add jump to the click? Add that. Yeah. So it should do this now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's running. Let's see. The jump's a little. Something's off about it. He doesn't go up.
It does jumps.
He does. Let's see. Yeah, something's. He's reacting, but like he's not leaving.
Of course. What we need to do is the last thing to do is after we set the player values, we need to set the player X and Y. But there's actually something we need to do before that. Okay, so let's do something before that. Let's create another variable right here, down here, and we call it. Let's do a variable. We're going to change it, and we call it the next. The next player X. So because I want to change the X of the player, but before I'm going to change it, I want to check a few things, like where the next building is, because if the next building is in front of it, so it's going to push it backwards,
Right.
and if it's not in front of it, so I want to move a bit to the right. So let's add next player, and it's going to be the player X, obviously, the initial plus the speed. So I want it to move with the speed, but I'm going to add it a few. I've taken control. So if you want to make it,
no, it's all good. It's all good.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a few things, a couple of things. One, I'm gonna take the next player X, and I'm gonna check if it's minus the game progress. I've written it right. Yeah.
Yep.
Is less than 720. So 720 is somewhere around 75% of the screen. So if it's less than 75% of the screen, I want to move it to this position. So I'll just add it to the next player X. I'll just add 1 divided by speed. So as the speed increases, this compensation would actually be slower. So this is actually one more thing that makes the game harder as you progress along the game.
Okay. So
Okay.
and just to reiterate, next player X is kind of like the next step that they're going to take. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
it's the next place that it's going to be. But here, the next thing I want to check is I want to check if the next building is actually blocking the player and needs to move back. So I'm gonna do like this is a weird if. So
Cool.
I'm gonna do if the next building X is bigger than the next building X. Okay, so that means if the player is it's supposed to be on the right side of the next building. Okay, if it's supposed to cross to the next building, but
I think
the
this is capital X. Am I wrong there? No, yeah, that's that. Right? Next building X, is that not it? Am I wrong?
no, the next building is an object of the next building.
My
It
fault.
has a building. Not it's not the next player X.
Okay.
So if the next building is X is bigger than if the next player X is bigger than next building X, meaning that the player is actually supposed to cross over to the next building, okay? But the next building height is actually bigger than the player Y, meaning that the building is higher than the player. That means that the player can't cross over, so it needs to move back. Am I understandable?
Let me just look through it. If next player X, so if the next step is greater than where the next building is, yeah, no, I'm starting to lose it.
So again, it compares two things. It compares the x of the building. Think of the x of the player, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and the x of the building. If the x of the player, the next x of the player, the x that he's supposed to be in, is bigger than the x of the building, meaning that it's supposed to cross over to the next building. But the next building is actually taller than where the player is right now, meaning that he can't cross over because he hits a wall.
Okay.
So I'm actually taking it back and I'm saying that
Oh.
the next player X is equals to the next building
And
X.
so this is how we get it so that as the buildings move this way, we're gonna have sorry microphone. We're gonna have the player run towards it and then get pushed back.
Exactly. So after
Got
we
it.
exactly. So
We we
now
we then link them like in lockstep where boom, you hit the wall and you're not gonna go any
exactly you
further.
hit the wall. So now
Got
after
it.
I've set the next player X, now I'm saying that the player X is equal to the next player X.
Cool.
And the last thing that we need to do, obviously, is just set these two variables. Remember, we have the player X and the player Y. So the player X is the next player X minus the game progress, just like the building, the building X minus the game progress, and the player Y is 320. So that's the minimum, the maximum. Excuse me, minus the player Y. So now everything is
Let's
what
see. Got a little error. Yeah.
next?
It's next building capital X.
Why?
Next building doesn't exist, I don't think. If you look around, there's a bunch of next building X. Oh no, wait. Sorry, next building is here. Let next building equals building 0. Okay, so we
Yeah.
do have next
No,
building.
not buildings. It's supposed to be building zero. Okay, yeah, that's it.
Got it. Okay.
I've got
Wait,
one
are
more
you?
mistake. Building is not defined.
Yeah, I think this is buildings because that's the buildings
Oh,
array
so
that we
that's
have at the
supposed to
top.
be.
Yeah, it's buildings from the top, and
Okay,
we're pushing onto that
so
buildings array. And when we add to that buildings array, that down here and create building, building should have an X value. So there's that. So building X is that next building thing inside. Yeah, I think I'm confusing next building X, which is all camel case, and next building dot X.
yeah, but it's supposed to have
Yeah.
a next building X.
So this is all happening in the render, so we should still have access to next building. So what is next building coming out as if we log next building?
You know, let's do like this. Yeah, okay, it's working. Forget about it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so yeah, it's working. Jump.
I'm trying. Oh, it didn't.
Jump.
Yeah,
Jump.
I promise I'm
Jump.
clicking. I promise I'm clicking.
You need to click on the div itself.
Yeah, no, I was clicking right here. And I think we're.
Well, I'm playing it and it actually works. It works.
Yeah, I'm getting like a. I was unable to like move the thing. I think we just had like a some kind of. Oh,
Like
there
freeze?
we go. Yeah, it's freezing. Yeah, like. Click. Oh, that one hit late. Yeah, they're hitting late. I didn't. So watch. Like,
Well, you know, it's weird because I'm running the same thing and it's running pretty smoothly. Maybe try closing the console or removing the
yeah,
console
it might be
log.
console. It might be console. Maybe the console log. That might be what's doing it, because that's logging out 60 times a second. What does G
Yeah.
mean? Good question, Ari. That is the gravity. Let me remove that console log. Not that one. That one's probably fine. Where is it? Start game, that's fine. Next building, get rid of it. Anything else? Nope, that's the only one. All right, let's do it. Come on. Here we go. Okay, now it's running a lot smoother, and I'll close the console anyway. Cool. So this is running a lot smoother. Awesome. Yep. Boom. Nice.
Okay, so
can,
why don't we have a different hues for everybody? Didn't you set a hue variable?
I did. Let's check that CSS. Let's actually see what's happening on these elements, because they should. Is there a hue? Yeah, 44.555 degrees right here, Amit.
Yeah.
Check my my use of that filter. Did is that supposed to be camel case? I remember I was unsure about that. Filter. Where is it? Building. Is it hue rotation?
No,
All
no.
one word?
It's hue. No, it's hue rotate.
Rotate. Got it. There we go. That's it. Cool. That should do. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, colorful. Okay.
Nice and colorful.
So,
awesome.
so
yeah, we are a bit over time. Do you want to hop to the final version and talk to anything there?
Your call.
Yeah, I think that would be the way to go. We can kind of touch on the laser itself. So here, I'll bring this up.
Yeah, so this is the final version. Okay, so let's go through it.
Cool. Should I play it first and then we can explain it?
Yeah, let's play. Let's
cool.
Let's
All
play.
Right. So I just clicked, and I'm clicking. So we got this far, right, chat? And so now, in about a second, you're about to see what else we are adding. So that is the explosion effect. That's the reason why it's not just one div per building, but you got a lot of divs per building, because that laser effect, that explosion.
Yeah, so actually we're not that far from there. All we're doing, as we've seen, we already have we had an if the building crosses a certain point, we add it to a destroy array. So all we do is just loop through these buildings and add a destroy class. That's it. And the destroy class has an animation in it to transform this building to this specific location, and that's it. It's very simple, and we did add dying and scoring and text and a lot of things. I didn't find it going to take us so long. I'm sorry.
Oh, no apologies needed. This is so cool. So is score just game progress, essentially?
So the score, what I've done, if you can check the code, you know what? Maybe what I did it. Oops. If you check the code, so what it is that every time the building explodes, I add a point.
Got it. Okay. that makes sense.
So, but you can do it every time you jump over a building. You can do it
Yeah,
every time
do it a
a
lot of
building
ways.
creates or whatever you want.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, Ben Holmes says that's the coolest opacity zero transition I've ever seen. Totally agree. Um, yeah, this is fantastic. Do you want to make this pen public so that the folks at home can play it?
Yeah, I'm trying to open it right now, and I can't. Oh, yes, yeah. So
Locked down.
one thing this version has is it does has a working delta time. I don't know why it didn't work in this version. And seriously, other than the dying animation and putting the animation in the end, we pretty much done everything.
Yeah.
So. But
Only
again,
thing I want to
everything is in the
see.
code, and if you have any questions or anything, so yeah, talk to me. I'm on Twitter.
Yeah.
Get me on Twitter.
Um,
So
I would
yeah, I'm
I
gonna do
would
it
love for you to
public right
walk.
now.
I'm sorry. I would love for you to just point out where because I kind of want the payoff for myself, but I also want the payoff for the chat. Where this bit comes in, Amit, the transition to part. So where in I guess it's in the CSS
Yeah.
where that
So
stuff comes in.
if you go to the CSS,
Destroy. Okay,
yeah,
so
so
we add
there's a
class
class of
destroy to the
destroy
building.
exactly. So in each building fragment, first thing I do is add a z index of 100 just to put it forward, and you can see the animation is very easy. I do a two because the initial value is the value they're in. I do a two in the keyframes, and I just translate x equals to tx, translate y equals to ty, rotate x equals to rx, and that's it. And of course the opacity.
Yeah.
The before, by the way, if you go a bit down, the yeah. So the before, this is actually the laser beam. Okay, the laser beam
Oh.
is a before of each building. It's not. It's
Wait, the
not an
laser beam is on the building. It's not its own thing.
no, because if you notice, if you play the game, notice that the laser beam is at the exact 50% of each building. So I didn't want to
Oh,
calculate the height of each building. So it comes to the building itself. It's related to the building itself.
let's watch
So it's
chat.
just something that comes out from the 50% and goes outward, and it's just a very simple animation of fading out.
I
That's it.
would I would have never yeah. I would have never guessed that. That's really clever. I assumed we were going to add a laser div or something, but that's a way more clever implementation.
Thank you.
That's so cool.
And that way, if you change the kill point to not 120% pixel to I don't know 400 pixels, it would stay the same because the after is going to the zero.
Yeah, and especially with the big difference, you kind of needed it to hit dead center because it'll look really silly if this big building gets hit down here, but also if a tiny building gets hit, um, way up here, it's going to look bad. So that's a
Yeah,
really clever solution to that. That's really neat. Yeah, did you make this public by chance?
yeah. I sent it to you in the chat.
Oh, cool, cool. I'll drop it into this chat.
Mm.
Awesome.
Yeah, so play around with it. Again, there's so much thing that I could have added, but I didn't because
Time, yeah,
Uh,
it's stuff takes time for sure.
no,
A
no, it's
raid
not
is
just
coming.
time because I didn't. I knew it's going to take a long time. I didn't thought it's going to take so much long time, but I knew it's going to take a long time. So, like things like add-ons. Normally, it's something it's very basic that you do. Add-ons like in this type of games, like slowing down or gravity, and things like that. But we don't have time. Maybe in the next few days before you implement it into your website, I'm going to add some more. I don't know. Maybe.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, and I also like to like we can work around it with some content. Like as we were talking, oh wow, 161 Ronin, party of 7. Thank you for the raid. Really appreciate it. We just have a whole bunch of new people coming through. Yeah, Ben, bring out that raid hammer. Or raid pitchfork? Raid I don't know. I think it's
It's
a
a
pitchfork.
pitchfork.
Yeah, it's a pitchfork. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming through. We just built this on air. So it's CSS, HTML, JavaScript, no game engine whatsoever. Amit built this all himself. So it's an infinite runner. Check this out. We actually just dropped it in chat, but I'll drop it again because it's got a whole bunch of raid stuff in here. But yeah, we just went through and we're kind of skipping to the end a little bit, but we made like 80% of this on stream just now. And so as you run, you see that the buildings start to get blown up because the theme of this month for Component Carousel, this show, is Kaiju Demolition Services. So this is a character who's trying to run away from essentially our services. So as I was just kind of saying, is that Amit and I were talking about, all right, we need like a story reason why this is, like why you are not the kaiju here. So we're thinking like this can be a hiring thing where it's like, hey, we need city runners to like be able to escape our kaiju blast. So like check your skills. If you can do this, we can hire you, kind of thing, as like a story for the site.
Yeah,
But
it's my fault. I wanted the game, and the easy
oh,
way was to make like a character that's running away from the kaiju. It doesn't really fit well to the narrative
it's
of the website,
fantastic.
but
No, it's no for it being your fault. Like yeah, we take this kaiju demolition services theme seriously. Ah, man, I wish you would wish you would give it the seriousness it deserves. Um, but yeah, so yeah, no set interval. And the other thing, before we just wrap up, I want to say something I love about is it animation request animation frame. I always forget the name of that. Request animation frame does something cool in that if I start playing the game and you see I'm about to hit that building, if I go over here because I'm off tab.
yeah. Oh, so yeah, this is another difference between set timeout, because set timeout would keep rendering the game, but now because the game is not rendered, so the next animation frame doesn't fire.
Yeah, it's like an auto pause. So watch, I'm going to come back and it's going to be right where I was. I'm going to be like a few feet from the building,
And
just where I was. And so that's good for games in that like, oh, the person didn't lose their progress, but it's also great for performance because if I tab away from the website, I'm not still processing all of those animations or whatever, right? Like I know that
exactly.
everything's paused because we're only doing it on request animation frame, nice and performant, and yeah, it's an easier way to get 60 frames per second or whatever you can get, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, fun stuff. Amit, thank you so
And,
much. I'm gonna drop your website and your social into the chat once again. If you are new here, if you came in through the raid, we do stuff like this every single week. We're pretty much streaming every day, but we have fantastic people, creative developers on to teach us really cool stuff all the time. Next week, I haven't announced this yet, but we are gonna have a few people. Actually, I've been speaking to, yeah, a couple people. One person that I have locked in for Friday though is George Francis. Are you familiar with his work, Amit?
well, I know the name, but I can't really.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. Yeah, so he
Yeah.
just does some fantastic. George Francis. So if you might have seen his website, it's gonna be coming on. He's been working on some really cool stuff that I've been getting like kind of a sneak peek to. And he does great generative art, and this is one that he just did
Oh,
recently. Just really fun generative
that's
work.
great.
It's just delightful. So he's gonna come on and teach us a little bit about like Voronoi patterns and just all this kind of like cool mathematical pattern drawing that I yes the blob man himself, exactly. He's kind of famous around the front end horse Discord for drawing these blobby shapes, but I'm super excited to learn from him this stuff. So make sure you are following because we're always cooking up something really fun. And Amit, I really hope that I'll be able to get you back for something because you
I'm
just do
here.
fantastic work. I love it.
I'm here.
I know you are a busy man. You told me how much you did the month of July before we went live, and I got
Yeah,
tired, man.
last day. This month wasn't a hectic month,
Yeah,
but it was great. It's things that I like to do, like publishing
yeah.
errors and speaking in conventions. I like doing it. Yeah. So thanks for having me. And again, if you need me anytime back soon, I'm here.
Awesome. I will be hitting you up. And yeah, I really appreciate it. Chat. You were fantastic. 161 Ronan once again. Oh, hold on one sec. Actually, SO 161 Ronan. Let's see if this works. I added something. I don't know if that worked. That should work. Hopefully that link works. I don't know. I
Well,
tried 161 Ronan. I appreciate you and I appreciate everyone here. Thank you so much for coming through. You're all fantastic. And yeah, let's find someone to raid. I have to stop dropping off without doing that. Let's go find someone to raid. I see Chael Codes is streaming some compression. This is a really cool thing where you're kind of using like steam pipes to simulate coding gates. I don't fully understand it, but let's go learn about it. Thank you again. Take care. I'll see you next time. We're going to
thank
start
you.
this raid. And yeah, going to drop off.